أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه أمسينا وأمسى الملك لله والحمد لله لا شريك له لا إله إلا هو وإليه المصير اللهم ما أمس بنا من نعمة وبأحد من خلقك فمنك وحدك لا شريك لك فلك الحمد ولك الشكر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Where did we stop last time? Who remembers? What did we cover? One of the main events that we covered last time, what was it? It was a main battle. Who remembers? موقعة الجمل. Yeah, the battle of the camel. And there was a reason it was called the battle of the camel. What was that? Who remembers? And who was involved in the battle of the... But who was here? Just by show of hands. All new crowd? No. Yeah, a good number of you were here. Yes. It was the battle of the camel, al-Jamal, and there was a reason it was called that. And it was a battle in which basically the Sahaba were fighting with one another. There was on one side the army of Ali radiallahu anh, and along with some of the people of the fitna who were in his army. And on the other side, there was the army of Aisha alayhi radwanullah with Aisha, Talha, and Zubayr. Right? We covered that, and we discussed the battle of al-Basra, which was followed shortly by the battle of al-Jamal. And the reason it was called the battle of al-Jamal because Aisha radiallahu anha was on a hawdaj, some kind of a tent, a portable tent on the camel, and she was there. So basically, you know, she was like the symbol of the strength of her army. So long as the camel was up there, then they thought then the battle would continue. And we discussed one thing which is really important, if you remember that we discussed, is that how before the battle started, the big battle of al-Jamal started, then a reconciliation was arrived at. So they agreed that the fighting was not to continue, if you remember. That Ali radiallahu anh sent a great Sahabi, Al-Qa'qa' ibn Amr al-Tamimi, to negotiate with Aisha alayhi radwanullah and Talha and Zubayr. And the agreement was that basically they would give pledge to Ali and they would give him time for everything to stabilize, basically, for everything to calm down. And then he will seek revenge from those that killed Uthman. Because all what they were after, all what they want is to seek revenge or punishment from those that killed Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu. And the agreement was that basically both armies will return. The army of Aisha will go back to Mecca. The army of Ali will return to Al-Madinah. But the night before they left, then the people of the fitna, the people of the troublemakers, so to speak, that participated in the killing of Uthman, they thought that if the Muslims unite, then this will be your loss. So the only way basically to guarantee your own safety is by instigating problems among everybody else. And that's exactly what they did. So they went before Fajr, they killed people from the army of Aisha and they killed people from the army of Ali. And each army thought that the other one is the one basically that is attacking me. And everything basically broke loose at that time. And the army started fighting with one another. And Aisha alayhi radwanullah started shouting, "Awqiful qital," stop the fighting. And Ali radiallahu anh also started shouting the same thing, stop the fighting. But nobody was listening to either side. And especially with the people of the fitna basically fueling and instigating the fighting. And everything basically developed further and further until it was a big, huge battle in which 10,000 people were killed. 10,000 people were killed, among them some of the greatest Sahaba alayhi radwanullah, like Talha ibn Ubaidillah and some of the others. And basically it was a victory to Ali radiallahu anh. And at the end of the battle, of course, the camel fell down. The camel basically was attacked and fell down, at which time basically everybody surrendered and everything stopped. Then Ali radiallahu anh started looking around after the battle was finished, in a way still in awe and mesmerized as to how this thing could happen. Among the Muslims, among the Sahaba of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, such a big fight actually would have erupted. And he started looking around and he made a declaration that there's no booties to be assembled, there's nothing to be gained actually in here. Whatever you find, you have to collect, and they gathered in a certain place. So all the weapons, everything that they found, all the money, everything that was to be gathered, and they put it in the mosque of Al-Basra. And he said, if anybody's running away, you do not follow him. If anybody's wounded, you do not finish him off. So it's a different thing. It's a different fighting altogether. There is a battle among the Muslims, what is called قتال البغي, a fighting of aggression, which is not a fighting of truth versus falsehood, but a fighting of aggression. So Ali radiallahu anhu, alayhi radwanillah, then he went and he visited with Aisha alayhi radwanillah, and he asked for her to forgive him, and she asked for him to forgive her. And they made dua for each other, and the decision was for her basically to return to Mecca. And he started looking around as to what happened, and among the people that he found was Ka'b ibn Sur. Who was Ka'b ibn Sur? Anybody? Does that ring a bell? We mentioned him last time. This was the judge, the general judge of Al-Basra. He's the one that was sent before the battle of Al-Basra, basically to find out whether Talha and Zubair gave the pledge forcefully or voluntary. So he's the one that returned. And returned, of course, he was on the side of Aisha radwanillah, and he was killed in the battle. Ali radiallahu anhu, when he found him there dead, and he said, look at this. Some people are saying, some people from his own army of Ali, are saying that those that left with Aisha, Talha, and Zubair are nothing but the mean, evil people. How could they say that when among them is Ka'b ibn Sur, alayhi radwanillah? And he went around and he found Muhammad ibn Talha, Muhammad, the son of Talha ibn Ubaidillah, alayhi radwanillah. And when he saw him dead as well, he cried and he said, هذا الذي كنا نسميه بالسجاد. That this is the person that we used to call him, the one that keeps making sujood to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لكثرة سجوده لله. And he went around, and also, of course, among the people that he found dead was none else but Talha ibn Ubaidillah, alayhi radwanillah. Talha, one of the greatest Sahaba of the Prophet, one of the Al-Ashra al-Mubashirin, the great 10 that were given the news by the Prophet that they will end up in Al-Jannah. And he went down when he saw him. He says he dusted his head and he put him on his thigh, and he cried and he said, alayhi radwanillah, Ali said, يَعُزُّ عَلَيَّ يَا أَبَا مُحَمَّدْ أَنْ أَرَاكَ مَجْدُولًا تَحْتَ نُجُومِ السَّمَاءِ. That it breaks my heart for me to see you like that under the sky. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make you and yourself companions in Al-Jannah on the Day of Judgment. So despite everything, but he used to love them so much. And he saw Abdullah ibn Zubayr, alayhi radwanillah, also wounded but not dead. And he asked him, what brings you here, ya ibn akhi, O nephew of mine? And he told them, we came seeking revenge from those that killed Uthman, repeating the same expression. And Ali said, may Allah kill those that killed Uthman. So Ali radiallahu anhu, he brought all the weapons and everything that they found, and he declared to everybody that there's no booty to be gained in this battle. This is something different. This is something among the Muslims. And he gathered everything and he put it in the masjid, and he said if anybody can identify anything that belongs to him or to a family member, he can come and take it away. And he left everything in there, and he did not enter Al-Basra for 3 days, waiting for everything basically to calm down and for everything to stabilize. And after that, he entered the masjid and he prayed in the main masjid there, and people started coming to him to give him bay'ah, to give him the pledge. After they were basically resisting or hesitant, now everybody actually gave him bay'ah, including those that initially were resisting to do so. And then he went to the house of Abdullah ibn Khalaf, which is one of the biggest houses in Al-Basra, and that's when Aisha alayhi radwanillah was staying before she left. And with her there was a woman named Safiya bint al-Harith alayhi radwanillah, and she was basically very upset as the killing that happened, so she started making dua against Ali radiallahu anhu, that basically, may Allah kill you, how could you do this, And some of the people in the army around Ali, they said, Ya Amir al-Mu'min, how can we let her say something like that? We have to do something, punish her, do something about her. And Ali basically reprimanded them. And he said, stop, what are you talking about? And he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet prevented us from aggressing against them, even if they are kuffar, let alone if they are Muslims. And as he was leaving, Ali radiallahu anhu, then they told him that, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, somebody did something even worse than that, than insulting that woman. And he said, what? They said to him that 2 men basically insulted Aisha alayhi radwanillah using the worst words. Then Al-Qaqa' ibn Amr al-Tamimi said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, should I kill them? How could they say that about the wife of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam? And Ali said, no. But they punished them, that each one of them was flogged 100 times, and they were basically disgraced before everybody else. So despite everything, she is the wife of the Prophet ﷺ. And everybody again came to give him bay'ah, And now it was time for Aisha alayhi ridwanullah to return back to Mecca. So he chose 40 women among the most dignified women of Al-Basra, along with their mahrams, their husbands, their children, and those were to accompany her on her way back, basically to Mecca, alayhi ridwanullah. And among the people that left was Ali radiallahu anhu himself. He left out walking actually with them for miles until he guarantees that everything and she is safe. And at that time, Aisha radiallahu anha, then she stood up and she started basically addressing everybody. And she said, Ya Bani, O children of mine, because she is Amir al-Mu'mineen. تعتب بعضنا على بعض يعني حدث بيننا عتب استبطاء أو استزادة. I will translate. فلا يعتدن أحد منكم على أحد بشيء بلغه من ذلك وإنه والله ما كان بيني وبين علي في القدم إلا ما يكون بين المرأة وأحمائها وإنه عندي على معتبتي لمن الأخيار. That he said, she said, Aisha, all children of mine, that some of us blamed one another for differences in opinion, doing less or doing more than what they were supposed to. And he said that none of you should use that which happened among ourselves as an excuse to attack the other. And he says there was nothing between me and Ali except that which is normally between the person or the woman and her in-laws. And despite my blame, or the blame that I had of him, he is among the most righteous people in my eyes. And Ali radiallahu anhu repeated the same thing. He said, أيها الناس صدقت والله وبرت وما كان بيني وبينها إلا ذلك وإنها لزوجة نبيكم في الدنيا والآخرة. And he said, oh people, whatever she said was the truth. And she said the truth and she's a righteous person. And he says, and there's nothing between her and me except whatever you heard, whatever she mentioned. And she is the wife, she was the wife of your prophet in this life, and she will be his wife in the hereafter. And then Ali ibn Abi Talib, then after she left, then he returned back to Al-Basra, and then he waited for Abdullah ibn Zubayr to be tended and treated, and then we left back actually to Mecca. And then Ali ibn Abi Talib, then he left Abdullah ibn Abbas in charge of Al-Basra, and he left to the Kufa, the other big city in Iraq, and that was to be basically the headquarter of his Khilafah at that time. So he was stationed in Al-Kufa, and he made it his capital. And everything by then had stabilized for him, except, of course, the big place, which is still not giving him pledge, which was, which place? Sham, the Levantine area, the area of Syria, which was still basically under the leadership of Muawiyah, and everybody basically was eager to seek revenge from those that killed Uthman alayhi ridwanullah. Now Ali radiallahu anhu, he said, he had a different views, is that basically you cannot take things in your own hands. And Ali, again, repeating it again, that Ali was the one on the truth, as attested first by the Prophet ﷺ in some of the ahadith, as well as the scholars that came later on that looked at the same events. But this is not to say that the other side is an evil side. It was just an ijtihad, a wrong ijtihad, that may still be rewarded for doing that. So Ali radiallahu anhu had a more wise approach, that you cannot basically attack or kill everybody without any due judgment. Ali radiallahu anhu, he was a judge during the Khilafah of Abu Bakr and the Khilafah of Umar. So they will not appoint anybody. So he's really actually capable of doing that, and he is the one most fit to make such a judgment. And he knew the rule that the Prophet ﷺ has established, the different rules that basically idfa' al-hudud bil-shubuhat, that basically you ward off any measure of punishment, even if there is a room or a doubtful matter to do that. So that's why, to him, despite the fact that Al-Ashtar al-Nuqai, for example, and the son of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Muhammad bin Abi Bakr as-Siddiq, even though they participated in the siege of Uthman, but they did not participate in the killing of Uthman, and those are two different things. Because the side of Muawiyah, they were saying that, how can you have these people in your army, you should kill them. But Ali radiallahu anhu, and again, Ali was a very just person. He thought that he cannot actually basically kill anybody or take punishment from anyone until a due judgment is taken, is followed. So there has to be a judgment, a judge has to examine the different evidence and the different facts before basically a decision is made. And again, the fact that they participated in the siege of the house of Uthman, it's not the same as those that killed Uthman. Those that killed Uthman were Saudan and Qutayra were already killed on the spot. And that was the opinion of Ali radiallahu anhu. Muawiyah thought that, nope, we have to basically kill those that participated in any way, directly or indirectly, in the killing of Uthman. So anyway, then Ali radiallahu anhu decided to send a messenger, a dignified person, to negotiate with Muawiyah, and he sent Jarir ibn Abdullah al-Bujali. Jarir ibn Abdullah al-Bujali was one of the leaders of Yemen, and the Prophet ﷺ spoke about him before he died. He came to the Prophet to declare Islam not long before the Prophet died. And the Prophet ﷺ, he was sitting among his companions, and he said that a person will enter shortly. He will be one of the people of Al-Jannah, and he is the best person coming from Yemen. And then Jarir ibn Abdullah al-Bujali enters. Nobody knew him. And when he enters, he noticed that everybody is looking at him, whichever way he moves. Everybody's following him. So he felt a little odd. So he sat down and he asked the person next to him, why is everybody looking at me like this? Has the Prophet said anything? And the man told him, yes, the Prophet says that you are one of the people of Al-Jannah. Well, isn't that wonderful? Imagine if the Prophet said that about someone, about you. And we ask Allah to give it to all of us. He said, the Prophet ﷺ said, you're one of the people of Al-Jannah. And the man said, Alhamdulillah. And Jarir said, he says, ما حجبني رسول الله منذ أسلمت. That since the day I became Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ basically never kept me away. Never, basically kept me away. And whenever he sees me, he would smile. Imagine this great badge of honor. It couldn't be more honorable than that. So he was praised by the Prophet ﷺ. So Ali chose this great person to go basically negotiate with him, to negotiate on his behalf with Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. Al-Ashtar, Nukhai, again, one of the leaders of the fitna, keep that in mind, one of the troublemakers, he said that, Ya Amir al-Mu'minin, you should not send him. I'm afraid if you send him, he will become one of his, a member of his own camp. And Ali radiallahu anhu, of course, didn't buy into that. He knew the favor of Jarir. So Jarir ibn Abdullah, alayhi ridwanullah, when he went and he visited with Muawiyah, he went to visit with Muawiyah, and among those that were sitting at that time were three. Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, radiallahu anhu. Radiallahu anhu. Of course, he's a Sahabi, and he brought the revelation to the Prophet ﷺ at one time. Again, it's a fitna, keep that in mind. Muawiyah, Amr ibn al-As, and also radiallahu anhu, Amr ibn al-As is the one that introduced Islam to Egypt. We ask Allah to protect Egypt and the Egyptians. Amr ibn al-As, and the third one, Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, who was the greatest of all three of them. Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, of course, he became Muslim way before his father, and he is one of the scholars of the Sahaba. He is what's called one of the Abadila, one of the Abdullahs. Who are the Abadila? So Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As is one of them. Who are the other three? Abdullah ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Umar, what? Abdullah ibn Zubayr, radiallahu anhu. Those are the Abadila, as they were referred to. Now, Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As was not of the opinion of siding with Muawiyah. So he thought that basically the stand that his father took was not the right thing. However, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, before his death, had told him that you have to obey your father. And because of that, he basically remained with his father. SubhanAllah, the commands of the Prophet, the words of the Prophet, as you will see later on, especially regarding a specific instance, despite everything, despite the fitna and everything, but they would not lose track of the commands of the Prophet ﷺ, or of the importance of the guidance of the Prophet. That's why, if you remember what we mentioned last time, in the middle of the battle, Zubayr ibn al-Awwam alayhi ridwanullah was fighting on one side. And then Ali reminded him in the battle. He told him that, Ya Ali, remember when you told the Prophet ﷺ that you love me, and the Prophet told you that you love him, but yet you will be unjust to him. That you will fight him unjustly. تُقَاتِلُهُ وَأَنْتَ لَهُ ظَالِمٌ. And then Zubayr ibn al-Awwam just woke up. He remembers, what am I doing in here? And then he left everything. That's it. Because of a word, a reminder from the Prophet ﷺ, they're willing to do everything. So here Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, despite the fact that he was of the opinion of siding with Ali, but in fulfilling the commands of the Prophet ﷺ, he remained with his father. So again, Jarir ibn Abdullah basically came to them and asked them to submit to Ali. Muawiyah alayhi radwanullah, then immediately he gathered the different leaders of Bilad al-Sham and he consulted with them, and they came up with the opinion that basically either Ali would kill those that participated in the siege and the killing of Uthman, and then we'll give him bay'ah right away. Or he will give them to us, we will kill them, and we will give him bay'ah. So we'll give them the pledge. So the goal here is not to take the Khilafah away from Ali. The goal again is to fulfill that which they were all after, which is again and again killing or punishing those that killed Uthman radiallahu anhu. And then Jarir ibn Abdullah went back to Ali and he told him that's what happened. Then Al-Ashtar said to Ali in front of Jarir, he said, Allah, you should have sent me. If you have sent me, I would have known what to say to them. Then Jarir told him, if he had sent you, they would have killed you because of your participation in the killing of Uthman. I mean, what are you talking about in here? Of course, it doesn't make any sense. And then Jarir ibn Abdullah alayhi radwanullah then decided not to participate in any of the events that were to follow later on. He was still basically blaming Ali for having in his army someone like Al-Ashtar al-Nukha'i and the son of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr as-Siddiq as well, though that they participated in the fitna. Then Ali radiallahu anhu, basically, he gave the command to his army basically to prepare for the conquest of Bilad al-Sham, of the Levantine area. Because if Muawiyah basically isolated himself, then gradually each leader in his own locality will declare his own independence and the whole Khilafah would fall apart. So he decided basically to actually form an army and to march toward the Levantine area, and that was in Dhul Hijjah, the beginning of Dhul Hijjah of the year 36 after Hijrah. He was able to gather an army of 120,000 persons. He keeps getting bigger and bigger. So anyway, Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, he was able to gather an army of 120,000. Well, I try to imagine that. Again, the numbers keep on getting bigger and bigger. And Ali, then Muawiyah alayhi radwanullah, of course, he prepared for that with an army of 90,000. So 90,000 versus 120,000, subhanAllah, fulfilling actually the prophecy of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, in a hadith narrated by Abu Hurairah, when he said, لا تقوم الساعة حتى تقتتل فئتان عظيمتان ويكون بينهما مقتل عظيمة. That the hour will not happen until two huge army of Muslims will fight one another with a lot of casualties, with many casualties, many people being killed. And he said, دعواهما واحدة. This is something very important. He says, دعواهما واحدة. It means their message is one. So here the Prophet ﷺ, despite the fact that it's a big battle with a lot of killing, many people killed, but the Prophet still said their message is one, which means both of them are on the truth as far as message is concerned. But in matters of ijtihad, one of them actually hitting the truth, the other one actually missing it. Then Muawiyah alayhi radwanullah consulted with the Sahaba, with his companions and the people that are around him, and the decision was not to wait for Ali to come, but to basically meet him. And truly enough, they met in a place called Siffin. That's what we'll be talking about for the rest of the time, is the Battle of Siffin. Siffin is on the one branches, it's east of Aleppo, and if you look on the map, one of the branches of the Euphrates rivers. So they camped in there. The army of Muawiyah reached there first, so they decided basically to put the water behind them, to have control over the water. Then some of the scholars in the army of Muawiyah told them that it is not halal for you to do that. You cannot do that. You cannot prevent water from reaching the Muslims. And Muawiyah said, well, we'll defend it basically just symbolically. So for a little bit, just for them to appreciate or to feel, basically the severity of what they did when they prevented water from reaching Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu. So that was, again, the thing that was moving everybody, is the events or the things that happened to Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu. And to Ali radiallahu anhu, of course, is the events that are following now are even more serious than what happened to Uthman. We're talking about the unity and of the ummah and all of that, which is even more important. So that's why as soon as the army of Ali came in, then the army of Muawiyah pulled back to give them access to the water. Then some people in the army of Ali, they said to Ali, well, let's control the water ourselves. In other words, we'll camp in front of the water and we'll have access to the water. And Ali basically reprimanded them for doing that, for saying that. And he says, you were blaming them, that they have control or access to the water without giving that to you. And now you're doing the same thing. That's why everybody had free access to the water. Then Ali radiallahu anhu, he sent 3 people, again, to negotiate with Muawiyah. He sent Bashir ibn Amr al-Ansari, Sa'id ibn Qais al-Hamadani, and Shabt ibn Rabi' al-Tamimi. Remember the third name. And the first 2 people, basically, they were honorable people among their people. So they started talking to Muawiyah, basically telling him that Ali is a dignified person. Ali is the one that deserves the leadership more than anybody else. You have to give him bay'ah and pledge. And Muawiyah basically was not objecting to that. Yes, Ali, of course, is the greatest. Everybody actually sees that. And they asked him that you have to give him pledge and support. He is Amir al-Mu'mineen, until the third person basically messed everything up. This Shabt, he started talking and he said that, Ya Muawiyah, everybody knows that you're trying to take the leadership for yourself. And you did not find any justification for that or excuse for that, except to claim that you are seeking revenge from those that killed Uthman. And everybody knows that you don't care about any of that. You're just after the leadership for yourself. Yeah, and subhanAllah, few people mess up everything. And then Muawiyah, of course, got aggravated. How could a person say that like that? And he asked him to leave. And he says that all you have with me is a sword. So the negotiation failed because of the recklessness, and whatever of that particular person. And then the negotiations stopped. And that basically led to the formation or led to the happening of the Battle of Siffin. But again, to re-emphasize again that when it comes to the events that happen among the Sahaba, subhanAllah, what we'll be discussing is a very sad event. It's something very sad. What we discussed already actually is very sad. But despite everything, the scholars, based on the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ, is that we hold our tongues back. So we do not insult or attack any of the companions, ﷺ, whichever sides they were on. And whenever we can explain things in the good way, we have to do that. Whether we know the facts or not, we have to explain things in the best way, and we do not get into the intentions. He did it because of this or because of that. Because if you think about it, whoever I offend or insult is going to be basically my litigant on the day of judgment. I'll be there facing him. Now, who wants to face Talha on the day of judgment? Who wants to face Umar on the day of judgment? Who wants to face Aisha on the day of judgment? Who wants to face Ali on the day of judgment? That's why we hold our tongues back. None of us actually can match any of what these giants actually have done. That's why we hold our tongues back. So the fighting started in the Hijjah of the year 36. The Hijjah, the year 36. And for the whole month, they were like small battles, battalions fighting with one another, about 90 of them, fighting back and forth without anything decisive actually happening. And then, one of the things that the army of Muawiyah was most concerned about is the presence of one person, just one person in the army of Ali. Who was that person? That's the one person everybody was concerned about. Ammar ibn Yasir, alayhi ridwanullah. Why Ammar ibn Yasir? Ammar ibn Yasir, when people migrated to Medina and they were building the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, each person was carrying one stone at a time. Except Ammar, he was carrying 2. So the Prophet ﷺ came to him and he removed dust with his blessed hand off his face and he said, may Allah have mercy on you. Everybody's carrying one stone, but you are carrying 2. But yet, تَقْتُلُكَ الْفِئَ الْبَاغِيَةِ. You'll be killed by the aggressing side. You will be killed by the aggressing side. So whichever side kills you, it will be the aggressing side. It will be the wrong side. So everybody was afraid. Who's going to kill actually Ammar ibn Yasir? That's why the army of Muawiyah were trying their best to avoid Ammar ibn Yasir. Wherever they find him, they run away from him. Because again, remember, despite everything, the words of the Prophet still resonate. They still have their weight among them. And one of the main leader in the army of Muawiyah, his name is Dhul Kila', he said to him that the moment Ammar is killed, I will leave you. That's it. I won't be with you anymore. And Muawiyah told him that, wait, maybe Ammar will move to our side. And if he does, subhanAllah, he was really shrewd, by the way. I mean, you can't take that away from him, even if he was wrong. But he was shrewd. And he said to him that maybe he'll move on our way. So again, then the battle basically started. A big, huge battle started. But this was after a truce that happened in the following month. What is the month after Dhul Hijjah? What's the month that follows Dhul Hijjah? Muharram, which is the first in the Islamic calendar. So now we are in Muharram of the year 37. And they agreed that Muharram, of course, since it's Muharram, so let's have a ceasefire, basically in this month. And nothing will happen in this month. Everything stopped. And the interesting thing is that when everything stopped, people will visit one another. They will, just visit. SubhanAllah, they're still actually close to one another. But SubhanAllah, differences in opinion. That's really what happened. And everything started until in the beginning of the next month, which is the beginning of Safar, the year 37, then the big battle of Siffin happened. A battle that took 3 days that resulted in the killing of many of the Sahaba and the Tabi'een alayhim ridwanillah. And in the beginning of the battle, then Ali sent to Muawiyah, and he told him that, why are we letting everybody fight? Why don't we have a duel? Basically, yourself and myself. Ali by then, by the way, he was around 60 years old. So he wasn't actually that young. And Muawiyah, of course, Ali, who can face Ali? Radiallahu anh. He said to him that, no, I will send someone, you'll send somebody, and we'll see what happens. And that's really what happened. Basically, Ali sent somebody, and Muawiyah sent someone. The one that Muawiyah sent killed the one that Ali actually sent. And then Ali, alayhi ridwanullah, he grabbed the one that killed the person that he sent. He says with one hand, with his hand, and he raised him and he threw him on the floor. And he killed him like that, by doing that. SubhanAllah, he was a great hero. He's the one that faced Amr ibn Wid, if you remember that, in the beginning of the battle of Al-Khandaq, the biggest hero of Al-Jahiliyyah. And then Muawiyah looked at Amr ibn al-As, he says, you want me to face this person? Who can actually stand in the face of Ali radiallahu anhu? So anyway, the battle then erupted and started. The battle of Siffin that lasted actually 30 days. And then, of course, everybody trying to avoid Ammar ibn Yasir. Nobody wants to face Ammar ibn Yasir, who was actually fighting in the battle. He was fighting and efficiently. How old was Ammar ibn Yasir by then? He was 91 years old. 91 years old, and subhanAllah, fighting, and he says he even killed, some of the biggest heroes in the battle of Al-Jamal. In the battle of Al-Jamal. So he was a big hero despite everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with strength. And Allah, subhanAllah, once they said that one of the earlier Muslims, they found him at a very late age, old age, taking a jump that normally a person of his age cannot, taking a big jump. And they told him, how could you do that at this age? And he says that, that these are our jawarih, our senses. We protect them when we were young from haram. So Allah protected them for us when we became old. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed these people. So everybody trying to avoid Ammar ibn Yasir radiallahu anh. The person that threatened to leave Muawiyah was killed before Ammar ibn Yasir. And then shortly after, not long into the beginning of the battle, then two men basically from the army of Muawiyah, they saw Ammar ibn Yasir and they killed him. And everything stopped. That's it. Everything froze right on the spot. Ammar ibn Yasir was killed. He's the one that the Prophet said, تَقْتُلُكَ الْفِئَ الْبَاغِيَةِ, that the transgressing side, the transgressing part, will be the one that is killing you. And then the army of Muawiyah was in a big dilemma. And Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As told his father and Muawiyah, look, you both heard what the Prophet ﷺ said. You will be killed by the transgressing side. And then Amr ibn al-As said to Muawiyah, what do you think we should do? And Muawiyah told Amr ibn al-As, listen to this. He said that you're nothing but an old senile person. The one who killed him is the one who brought him here. Which means the one that killed him was Ali himself, not us ourselves. SubhanAllah, look how some people are skilled at twisting certain things. He says, we're not the one that killed him. It was the one who brought him. إنما قتله من جاء به. This is really what إنما قتل عمار من جاء به. The one who killed him is the one that brought him here. And most of the people accepted that basically, and the fighting continued. The fighting continued, of course, and the army of Ali radiallahu anh intensified the attack. And after, he says 3 days. He says for 3 days until the last day called Yawm al-Harir. He says the fighting was so intense that they could not even pray. They were praying actually on their horses. Not only that, he says they ran out of weapons, swords and arrows and everything. The fighting, they said, was happening with the hands and with the stones, because they did not have any more weapons anymore. And it continued like that until, the third day, at which time 45,000 from the army of Muawiyah were killed. Half of the army of Muawiyah were killed. 25,000 from the army of Ali was killed. That's 70,000 people killed. Subhanallah. Wallah, look how sad it is. 70,000 people were killed. And then the army of Muawiyah, then they felt that this is it. Half of our army is gone, and Ali basically is clearly winning. And that's when Amr ibn al-As came up with a trick, in a way, to change everything. And he said to Muawiyah, I have the opinion. There's one thing, if we do it, it would only consolidate our forces. He said the one thing that we can do is to raise the Quran, the Masahif, on the spears and ask them to refer to the judgment of the Quran. So we want a mediation. That's really what we want. We want basically to refer to the judgment of the Quran. And they said that by doing that, we'll be able to split the army of Ali radiallahu anhu. And that's exactly what happened. Then suddenly, in the middle of the battle, then the army, the front lines of the army of Muawiyah, they raised the Masahif on their spears, basically that, here's the Quran. We accept whatever the Quran decides, and we'll submit to it. And that's what the army of Muawiyah was of. The army of Ali, they split. One group, they said, no, it's a trick. They only said that when they found out that they were losing the battle. That's why we don't give in. Then another group, and here Ali was one, was leading actually that part, that camp. The other part segment of the army of Ali, they said, no, wait. They ask us to refer to the Quran. They ask to refer to the Quran. We have to accept that. How can we refuse, a reference to the Quran? And Ali radiallahu anh, he said that, are you fighting what you're fighting for? Is it the truth or the falsehood? You believe in what you're fighting for, right? They said yes. He said then what they're doing actually is just a trick. When they found out that they're losing the battle, they referred to that so as not to lose the battle completely. They said still, that's it. They're asking us to refer to the Quran, then we have to refer to the Quran. Then all the people of Iraq basically decided that we will not side with Ali. Yeah, Ali, you have to accept that. That's it. We will not side with you anymore. And Ali radiallahu anhu, of course, was forced to accept the mediation. And that was to happen. So what was to happen, they said that basically we'll have one person from ourselves, the army of Muawiyah, one person from the army of Muawiyah, one person from the army of Ali. And whatever the two decide, we'll accept. The army of Muawiyah, they named Amr ibn al-As. Everybody agreed to that. The army of Ali, every time Ali names a person, everybody rejects, or somebody objects. We do not. They're divided among themselves because of that trick. And then everybody then agreed, then the person who will be doing that was Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, radiallahu anhu. Why Abu Musa al-Ash'ari? Because they thought that Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, the great Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, is the only one that did not participate in the whole fitna, in the whole battle. So he was the wise person. So we'll accept his judgment. And truly that's really what it was. And here, by the way, we'll find some of the stories mentioned about the mediation that are not correct. That shows basically that Abu Musa al-Ash'ari was a naive person. By the way, one of the stories is mentioned in a book that everybody likes called Rijal Hawd al-Rasul, Men Around the Prophet by Khalid Muhammad Khalid, that talks about this event. Now, I'm not dismissing the book. The book is really a good book. It's a very nice book. But it has some criticism. This is one of them. So whatever that book mentions about Amr ibn al-As and Abu Musa al-Ash'ari in that event is false, is not correct. The authentic sources does not describe him as such. Actually, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari was appointed by Umar as a general judge. I mean, how could Umar appoint someone naive as a general judge? Unless it's someone who has a lot of wisdom. So they agreed basically that we'll stop everything. The war now is finished, is ending, and we will meet next year in Dawmat al-Jandal. And when they were writing actually the mediation statement, they said that this was agreed upon by Ali, Amir al-Mu'mineen, and the side of Muawiyah said, no, he's Amir for you, he's not Amir for us yet, basically. So just write his name and the name of his father, Ali bin Abi Talib, like what happened, if you remember, in the Hudaybiyah Treaty, when they were negotiating and the Prophet says, Muhammad Rasulullah, they said, no, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, we don't believe in you as a messenger anymore. And that was basically agreed upon. So with that, the army of Muawiyah went back basically comfortably, that they were able to achieve some partial gain. Ali ibn Abi Talib went back with loads of problems. Subhanallah, loads of problems. Subhanallah, his khilafah was nothing but troubles from the beginning. It was very difficult, alayhi radwanullah, until of course it ended up with his killing. So Ali bin Abi Talib, again, going back, he accepted after the insistence of the people of Al-Iraq that we will go with the mediation. Then after that, those same people came back to him. They said, how do you accept the mediation? They told him, what you're fighting for, isn't that for the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He said, yes. They said, well, then how could you actually forsake that? And Ali said, you told me that. You forced me basically to accept the mediation. And they said, yes, we did that, but now we're wrong. We confess that we are wrong and we changed our mind. We have to, whatever actually you were fighting for the sake of Allah, this is the truth. And they said to him, وَلَا حُكْمَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَلَا حُكْمَ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. There's no judgment except for Allah. And here Ali made the famous statement that almost everybody after him started repeating it. He says, كَلِمَةُ حَقٍّ أُرِيدَ بِهَا بَاطِلٌ. كَلِمَةُ حَقٍّ أُرِيدَ بِهَا بَاطِلٌ. That what you said is the word of truth, but the intention behind it is falsehood. And sometimes people do that, where they make a certain statement, a statement of truth, but the intention behind it is really falsehood. Or sometimes people, whenever they have a dispute, they start misquoting Quranic verses or a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which are words of truth, but people misuse them to promote a certain falsehood. That's the way it is. So he said it's a word of truth, but the intention behind it is a falsehood. So they said to him, and this is al-Khawarij, by the way. Everybody now talks about al-Khawarij. These are the Khawarij. People were basically split out of Ali, and they were very rough against Ali, and they said to him that, by accepting a mediation, when we were fighting for the sake of Allah, we became kuffar. And now we repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, we're back Muslim again, and also you became kafir, and we want you to say the shahada again. And Ali said, La wallahi la ashhadu ala nafsi bil kufr. He says, no, by Allah, I will not say that I'm a kafir. What I did was not a kufr. Subhanallah, this is how really things develop. And that's when they split away from the army of Ali, 12,000 of them. And their leader was none but Shabt ibn Rab'i. Who was Shabt ibn Rab'i? I mentioned him earlier. He's the one that messed up the negotiation between Ali and Muawiyah when he went and insulted Muawiyah. So he was the leader of that. And basically they had their own views. And that's why this is al-Khawarij. When the Prophet ﷺ said in some of his ahadith that basically two groups of Muslims will meet one another, ثُمَّ تَمْرِقُ مَارِقَةً. Then a splinter group will come out. And he said to the Sahaba alayhim radwanullah that تحقرون صلاتكم إلى صلاتهم وصيامكم إلى صيامهم. He said, the Prophet says that these are Khawarij, that your prayer seems insignificant compared to their prayer. In other words, they're very hard and strong in their prayer. And he says, and your fasting seems insignificant compared to theirs, but not in reality. And he says, يَمْرِقُونَ مِنَ الدِّينِ كَمَا يَمْرِقُ السَّهْمُ مِنَ الرَّمِيَّةِ. That basically they have no deen, religion in their heart. They're big troublemakers, and the Quran does not go beyond their throats, as the Prophet ﷺ said. And they were big again, causing some big problems. Then Ali radiallahu anh decided basically to bring some of them back. So he sent one of the greatest Sahaba to basically try to convince him to come back, and he sent Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anh. And Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anh, he went and he visited with them, and they told him, what brings you here? And he said to them, I came from the companions of the Prophet, among the companions of the Prophet, and there's not a single companion of the Prophet among you. That's why Al-Khawarij, these group, Al-Khawarij, did not have a single companion among them. Not a single companion from the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. So Abdullah ibn Abbas, he said that I came from the Sahaba of the Prophet, the companions of the Prophet, and there's not a single one of them among you. And he said to them that I came to speak to you or to mediate between you and Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, the cousin of the Prophet, his son-in-law, and one of those that received the Quran. Basically, the Quran came when he was there, and there's not a single one of you who knows about the Quran more than he does, about Ali radiallahu anhu. And he said to them, they started listening to him. He said to them, what are your criticism of Ali? What are you criticizing Ali for? They said three things. The first is that he accepted the judgment of regular men in the book of Allah, in the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's number one. Number two is that when he fought, the people in the battle of Al-Jamal, basically, he did not take over the women who were captives as Muslims, as prisoners as well, prisoners of war. What's the third one? And he said he basically removed himself from the leadership of the Muslims. When he wrote the mediation statement, when he said, instead of Ali Amir al-Mu'mineen, he said Ali bin Abi Talib. How could he accept these three things? So then Abdullah ibn Abbas, he said the first one, the fact that he accepted the judgment of men in the religion of Allah or in the book of Allah. And he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now Abdullah ibn Abbas is responding to them. He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقتلوا الصيد وأنتم حرم ومن فعله منكم متعمدا فجزاؤه مثل ما قتل من النعم يحكم به ذوى عدل منكم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that all you who believe, do not kill or hunt when you are in a state of ihram, for Hajj or Umrah. And whoever does that so deliberately, then the judgment or the punishment is like what he killed, a judgment that is made by two men who are trustworthy among you. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in the Quran that two men will make that judgment. So he asked him, I asked you by Allah, what is more serious, the hunting of an animal or protecting the blood of the Muslims? They said the blood of the Muslims. Okay, here's the first point. And he said, also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, about mediation between the husband and the wife now. فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ شِقَاقَ بَيْنِهِمَا فَابْعَثُوا حَكَمًا مِنْ أَهْلِهِ وَحَكَمًا مِنْ أَهْلِهَا. He says that if you fear basically some dispute or the aggravation of the dispute, then you send a judge from her side and a judge from his side. And he said, I ask you by Allah, which is more important, a mediation and a judgment between a husband and a wife, or a mediation that will save Muslim lives? They said, no, the one that's a judgment that saves Muslim lives. So this answers your first concern. The second one, how come you did not take the women as prisoners of war? And he told them, I ask you by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if he decides to do that, who among you will take Aisha as his prisoner of war? And then they woke up. Hey, Aisha, Mu'mineen alayhi ridwanullah. Then none of them, of course, said a single thing. Then this is number two. Number three, how come he did not say Ali Amir al-Mu'mineen? And he says if he did that, then somebody greater than him did something bigger than that earlier. Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, when he wrote the Hudaybiyah treaty, and first he wrote Muhammad Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, they told him, no, we don't believe in you as Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. Then write Muhammad bin Abdullah, and the Prophet accepted that. He is number three. They said then at that time on the spot, 2,000 of them actually went back. But the rest still actually caused some problem. Now, the fitna of the Khawarij, because that's another actually group that caused some problem. What happened? What did they do? And how did that end up actually with the killing of Ali radiallahu anh? Inshallah, we'll continue that next week. Jazakumullah khair wa alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Yes, Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anh was in Kufa. Yes. He made it like his new capital. Ali ridwanullah. because it was easier to move around, especially in the area which was really the troubled area. Everything was safe back in Medina. Wallah, do the calculation, do the math. This was, we're talking about 37 years after the Hijrah, right? So if you take that away from that, then how old would take that away? So probably at the time of migration might be like in his 50s. So the time that he came probably was like in his maybe late 40s or something, or early 40s, something like that. Yeah, do the math. SubhanAllah, by the way, the Sahaba, there was no age of retirement. Another great person, of course, is Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, he died basically on the outskirts of Istanbul. Why? Because he heard, again, the Prophet ﷺ saying that the army that conquers Istanbul, Constantinople actually, is blessed. So he thought that I'll take part of that. And of course it didn't happen in his time, but he's buried in there. And there's a Turkish brother said that there's a masjid there called Masjid Sultan Ayyub. So this probably refers to Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, that's what I'm guessing. طيب جزاكم الله خير. Inshallah we'll see you next month. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. جزاكم الله خيرا.